The darkness between stars had never felt so empty. Commander Sarah stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, staring at that showed nothing but the endless void. 30 years. 30 years since they had heard another voice in the galaxy. 30 years since Earth died. The ship groaned around her, metal fatigue singing through the hull like a funeral dirge. They had been a generation ship once, carrying 10,000 souls to a new world. Now they were down to 300, and the ship was held together with spare parts and prayer. Was 52 years old, and she had spent half her life watching everything fall apart. Commander, the voice belonged to her communications officer. He was young, barely 25, born on this ship and never knowing anything else. I'm getting something. His heart jumped. Another ghost signal. No, ma'am, this one's active. It's a distress call. His hands flew across his console, his face pale in the blue light. It's multiple repeating frequencies. They're begging for help. They remembered them from the old days before the Cascade. They had ruled a third of the galaxy, their ships like floating cities, their technology so far beyond human understanding that they barely acknowledged Earth's existence. They had called humans charmingly primitive in their diplomatic messages, the way someone might describe a clever pet. Can we reach them? Asked. If we strip power from life support in sections C and D, seal them off and burn through our remaining fuel reserves. Looked at her with eyes that had seen too much loss already. It's 6 months there, maybe 6 months back if we can refuel somehow. We'd be risking everything. Looked around the bridge. Her crew watched her, waiting. These were the people who had kept going when Earth's sun expanded early, swallowing their in fire, who had kept working when the hyperspace networks collapsed and stranded humanity across the stars, who had survived when the automated weapons turned on everyone, when the great civilizations fell one by one into chaos and death. Prep, the ship said, we're going. 6 months later, the Perseverance limped into the station's space. What had once been a gleaming metropolis was now a graveyard. Debris floated in clouds around the central structure, the wreckage of ships and stations that had crashed together in some desperate evacuation. The station itself was dark, only emergency lights flickering across its massive surface. Reading life signs, reported, his voice tight. 3 million multiple species, power generation at 5%, life support failing. Activated the communication channel. This is the human vessel Perseverance. We received your distress call. We're here to help. The silence stretched for long seconds. Then a voice came through, speaking in the translator-filtered tones of speech. Humans still exist. Some of us said, what do you need? Everything. The voice cracked with exhaustion. We're dying. Food production stopped 3 months ago. We can't fix the systems. We don't know how. Felt something cold settle in her stomach. They who had built empires across the stars couldn't fix their own food systems. Can you give us access to your agricultural decks? Yes, anything. I'm station master. I'll meet you at Dock 7. Was tall even for his crystalline skin dulled by malnutrition and stress. He stood in the docking bay with a security escort, watching as and her team of 5 emerged from the Perseverance's shuttle. His 4 eyes widened as he took in their patched suits, their simple equipment, the worn tools they carried. This is your entire team? Asked. This is everyone we can spare, said. Show us your agricultural systems. The agricultural deck was enormous, stretching for kilometers in every direction. Massive machines stood silent and dark, their purposes unclear. Holographic displays flickered with alien script that couldn't read. Everything was automated, controlled by systems that required quantum processors and AI oversight that no longer functioned. We tried to restart them, said, his voice hollow, but the AI won't respond. The manual overrides are locked behind security protocols we can't bypass. We were never taught how these things actually work. No one was. Why would we need to be? Walked slowly through the deck, her engineer, Sarah, beside her. was 60 years old, her hands from a lifetime of repair work. She had been a farmer once, back on Earth, before the ships left. She stopped at one of the massive machines and ran her hand along its surface. "This is a hydroponic processor," said. "Fancy one, but same basic idea as the ones we used on Earth." She looked at. "We don't need to fix their systems. We can bypass them." "You can do that?" asked, hope creeping into his voice. "We can try," said. "But we're going to need materials, pipes, pumps, basic electronics, and seeds if you have any in storage." The work took 3 weeks. His team tore apart the alien systems, pulling out the components that still worked and discarding the rest. They ran pipes by hand, installed manual valves, set up pumps powered by simple electric motors, dug through the station's storage and found seed banks, preserved from a time before automation made them obsolete. They watched in confusion as the humans planted seeds in growing trays, mixed nutrients in tanks, adjusted water flow by watching gauges and turning valves. It looked primitive, inefficient, almost embarrassing. But it worked. When the first plants began to grow, stood beside in the agricultural deck, staring at the rows of green shoots as if they were a miracle. "How did you know how to do this?" he asked quietly. "We never forgot," said. "When we went to the stars, we brought the old ways with us. We kept books, physical books with instructions printed on paper. We taught our children how to grow food, how to purify water, how to fix machines without computers telling us what to do." "Why?" turned to look at her. "You had the technology, why keep such primitive methods?" Smiled, tired but genuine. "Because we knew what could happen if we forgot. We're not as advanced as you were. We never had AI that could think for us or machines that ran themselves. We had to remember how things worked because if we didn't, we'd die." She gestured at the growing plants. "Turns out that was the right call." The station began to recover. With food production restored, the survivors had hope again. His team worked with the station's engineers, teaching them how to maintain the simple systems they had installed. It was basic work, the kind that required hands and patience rather than advanced degrees. Word spread. In the darkness between stars, messages traveled on the old radio frequencies, the ones that didn't require the hyperspace networks. Other survivors heard that there was a place with food, with humans who knew how to fix things. More distress calls arrived. Stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching the communication display light up with signals. 47 distress calls. 47 groups of survivors, scattered across nearby sectors, all asking for help. "We can't save everyone," said softly. "We don't have the resources." "No," agreed, "but we can teach them to save themselves." She turned to her crew. "Send out a message. Tell them we're coming. Tell them to gather their supplies, their tools, whatever they have. We'll show them what we know." Appeared on the calling from the station. "Commander, I want to send ships with you. Engineers, volunteers, we can help." Raised an eyebrow. "You're willing to work alongside humans now." His expression was unreadable, but his voice was steady. "You saved 3 million lives with 5 people and basic tools. You did what our entire empire couldn't do. I think it's time we learned from you." "Then welcome to the Restoration Fleet," said. "We've got a lot of work ahead." The Perseverance began to move, its engines burning with borrowed fuel from the station. Behind it, 3 ships followed, their holds filled with supplies and their crews ready to learn. It wasn't much. Against the darkness of a collapsed galaxy, it was almost nothing. But it was a start. Watched the stars ahead and thought about Earth. The planet was gone, burned away in fire and light. Billions had died when the cascade began, when civilization tore itself apart. The great empires had fallen because they had built themselves on foundations of complexity they couldn't maintain without their advanced technology. But humans had survived, not because they were stronger or smarter or more advanced. They survived because they remembered how to do things the hard way. They survived because when everything else failed, they could still plant a seed and watch it grow. As the fleet jumped to their next destination, pulled up the first distress call they would answer. It was from a mixed colony, 5 different species, all starving because their food replicators had failed. She smiled grimly. She said, "Tell them we're on our way, and tell them to find shovels. We're going to teach them how to farm." The work of rebuilding had begun. It would be slow, difficult, and uncertain. But humanity had never been afraid of hard work, and now they wouldn't be doing it alone. 2 years later, the restoration fleet had grown. 20 human ships now flew alongside 50 vessels from a dozen different species. They had saved 17 stations, 43 colonies, brought food and water and hope to millions of survivors. Everywhere they went, they left behind the knowledge of the old ways, the simple methods that didn't require quantum computers or artificial intelligence. Stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, which had become the fleet's flagship through circumstance rather than design. The ship was still held together with patches and determination, but now it was surrounded by allies. Appeared on her, his crystalline skin bright with renewed health. "Commander," he said, "we've received word from the Arcturus sector. There's a human population there, 50 million people." His breath caught. 50 million. They've been blockaded for 20 years by something called the Iron Chorus, automated warships from the old wars. We tried to break through during our empire's height. We failed 3 times. Paused. "The alien members of the fleet are frightened, Sarah. These machines destroyed our best dreadnoughts. They're asking if we should even attempt contact." Closed her eyes, thinking. 50 million humans. The largest population anyone had found since the Cascade, but trapped, besieged by machines that had outlasted the civilization that built them. "Tell the fleet we're going to Arcturus," she said. "How do we fight these machines?" asked. Opened her eyes and smiled. "We don't." The journey took 4 months. As they traveled, worked with her cryptographers and engineers, people who understood the old human military protocols. The Iron Chorus had been built by humans, deployed during the wars that preceded the Cascade. They were following their programming, their last orders given decades ago. "They're protecting something," explained to the Fleet Council. Representatives from 7 species sat in the conference room, their faces showing various expressions of doubt. These machines weren't designed to just kill. They were designed to defend. That means they're still following rules. "What rules?" asked a representative of the Architects, a silicon-based species whose hive mind had fragmented during the Cascade. "They destroy everything that approaches." "Everything except human ships," said. "Look at the reports from the attempts to break the blockade. The machines fired on you immediately, but there are records of human trading vessels approaching the line 20 years ago. The machines warned them off but didn't fire until after the warnings were ignored." "You're suggesting negotiation," said carefully, "with automated warships." "I'm suggesting we remind them who built them," replied. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus sector. Immediately, sensors lit up with contact markers. 57 capital ships, each one a dreadnought-class vessel bristling with weapons. The Iron Chorus hung in space like a wall of death, their hulls by decades of combat but still operational. Ordered the fleet to hold position. Then she climbed into a small shuttle, alone. "Commander, this is insane," protested over the comm. "If you're wrong." "Then you'll make sure the fleet gets out safely," interrupted. "I need you here. The fleet needs someone to lead if I don't come back." She piloted the shuttle toward the blockade, her hands steady on the controls. When she was within range, she activated her communication array and began broadcasting on old military channels, using authentication codes that were ancient even before the Cascade. "This is Commander Sarah, Human Fleet Designation Perseverance, Authentication Code Delta 774 Alpha. I am requesting parley under Military Protocol 17. Silence. The dreadnoughts didn't move, didn't fire. Shuttle drifted closer, a tiny speck before the massive warships. Iron Chorus Fleet, this is Commander. I am human. You were built to protect human interests. I am invoking command authority and requesting status report. More silence. His heart hammered in her chest. Behind her, the Restoration Fleet waited, ready to run if the machines opened fire. Then finally, a response. The voice was artificial, emotionless, but unmistakably waiting for her words. Command authority recognized. Human vessel detected. Authentication codes as obsolete but valid, requesting updated orders. Let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Iron Chorus, please transmit your current mission parameters. Mission parameters: defend Arcturus sector against hostile alien incursion. Prevent enemy forces from reaching human population centers. Maintain blockade until stand-down order received from proper human military authority. A pause. Duration of current mission: 23 years, 4 months, 17 days. No stand-down order received. Continuing mission. 23 years. These machines had been fighting a war that ended decades ago, following orders that no one had countermanded because no one was left to give them. They were still protecting humanity, still doing their duty, even though the government that created them was dust. Iron Chorus said slowly, "The war is over, hostilities have ceased. All alien species in the approaching fleet are allied with human interests. They are not hostile." Unable to verify, the AI responded. Current threat assessment indicates multiple alien vessels. Species identification includes Empire, known hostile force, maintaining defensive posture. Of course, the machines had been built during a time when there were enemies. They couldn't understand that everything had changed. Made her decision. Iron Chorus, I am updating your mission parameters under Emergency Command Authority. New mission: protect and defend the Restoration Fleet, consisting of human and allied vessels. Enemy forces are designated as rogue automated systems and hostile environmental hazards. Acknowledge new parameters. The silence stretched. For long moments thought the machines would reject her authority, that her obsolete codes wouldn't be enough. Then, new mission parameters accepted, updating threat assessment, allied vessels identified, terminating blockade posture. The voice almost sounded relieved if a machine could feel such things. Commander, permission to report. Granted. Arcturus sector human population status, stable. Population count, 54,300,000. Resources adequate. Defensive position maintained successfully. No breaches. Awaiting further orders. Felt tears on her cheeks. You did well, Iron Chorus. You did your duty. Stand by for fleet approach. The dreadnoughts moved aside, opening a corridor through their formation. The Restoration Fleet slowly advanced, human and alien ships passing between the mighty warships that had defended humanity for 2 decades without rest, without failure, without ever knowing if anyone would come. The Arcturus colonies were thriving. While the rest of the galaxy had fallen into chaos, the blockaded humans had turned inward, building a sustainable civilization. They had farms and factories, schools and hospitals, all run on simple technology that didn't require advanced AI. When the Restoration Fleet arrived, the colonists greeted them with joy and wonder. Met with Governor in a conference room overlooking the main colony. Was an elderly woman, her hair white but her eyes sharp. "We thought we were alone," said. "When the blockade went up, we tried everything to break through. Then we tried to contact anyone outside. Nothing worked. We assumed humanity was extinct except for us." "We thought the same," admitted. "How did you survive?" Smiled. "We went back to basics, grew our own food, built our own infrastructure. We kept the old skills alive, taught them to our children. It's strange. Before the cascade, we were just one colony among thousands, not particularly advanced or important. But that's probably why we survived. We never relied too heavily on the technology we couldn't maintain. You have records, said, seeing the data pads on the table. Locations of other colonies. Everything we knew before the blockade went up. It's 20 years out of date, but it's something. Push the data pads toward. There might be billions of humans still out there, scattered, isolated, but alive. Took the data pads reverently. This was more than she had hoped for. A map of humanity's reach across the stars, a guide to finding the lost children of Earth. Governor, I'd like to invite Arcturus to join the restoration fleet, said. We're rebuilding out there. Humans and aliens working together. We could use your help. Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, the aliens who are with you, they treat you as equals. More than that, said. They're learning from us. We're teaching them the things their civilizations forgot. It's a true partnership. Then Arcturus will join you, extended her hand. Let's find the rest of our people and bring them home. The restoration fleet departed Arcturus 3 months later, reinforced by 50 new ships and hundreds of thousands of volunteers. The Iron Chorus came with them, the ancient dreadnoughts now sworn to protect the fleet that had freed them from their endless vigil. On the bridge of the Perseverance studied the maps from Arcturus, marking possible locations of human colonies. So much to do, so many people to find. An alien scientist, one of the architects who had joined the fleet, approached her console. Its crystalline form shimmered with curiosity. Commander, I have a question. I've been studying human history and technology. You created the Iron Chorus, machines capable of loyalty that survived the fall of your government, your civilization, even your. How? Looked at where the massive dreadnoughts flew in formation with the fleet. We built them to protect us, yes, but we also built them to think, to make decisions, to have purpose. We gave them a mission that mattered. They weren't just weapons. They were defenders. She turned to face the architect. And we never forgot that machines, like people, work best when they have something worth protecting. The architect hummed thoughtfully. Your species builds things to last. Your machines, your knowledge, your hope. Even when everything else fails, these things endure. That's the idea, said. We build things to last, even each other. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying hope across the darkness. Behind them, the Arcturus colonies continued to grow. Ahead, somewhere in the vast galaxy, more humans waited to be found. The cascade had broken civilization, but it hadn't broken humanity. They would keep searching, keep building, keep going forward. Because that's what humans did. 5 years after the cascade began, the restoration fleet had become a true power in the galaxy. 300 ships now flew under coordination, carrying billions of beings. They had reclaimed entire sectors, established trade routes, brought dozens of species back from the edge of extinction. The simple technologies that humans had preserved were spreading, giving survivors the tools they needed to rebuild. But the core remained. Stood in the war room of New Geneva Station, a massive facility the fleet had constructed in neutral space. Around her, the Leadership Council gathered. Humans, architects, and 40 other species, all represented. On the holographic display above them, the galactic core glowed red with warnings. The core is still collapsing, said Doctor, the fleet's chief scientist. The automated systems there are out of control, are destroying habitable worlds. Weapons platforms are firing at random. The spatial anomalies are spreading. If we don't stop it, everything we've rebuilt will eventually be consumed. Now the fleet's military coordinator brought up tactical displays. Every simulation we've run shows the same result. Someone has to go into the core's center and manually shut down the primary control node. But the radiation levels and spatial distortions make it impossible. Any biological being will die within hours. Any synthetic intelligence will be torn apart by the anomalies. Then we send volunteers in shielded ships, said a representative. Accept the losses as necessary for the greater good. Listen to the council debate, hearing the same solution repeated again and again. Send someone to die, make the grand sacrifice. It was how the old civilizations had thought, how they had solved problems when they ruled the galaxy. But humanity had never ruled anything. They had survived by doing things differently. "There's another way," said quietly. The council fell silent. They had learned to listen when she spoke like this, soft but certain. "We don't send one person or one ship," continued. "We send everyone, a relay. Each team goes as far as they can, does what they can, then turns back before the point of no return. The next team goes further, then the next. Small steps building on each other until we reach the center." The representative looked confused. "That's inefficient. It would require hundreds of ships, thousands of crew members, the resources needed." "Would keep everyone alive," interrupted. "No one has to die for this." "But the time involved," another alien protested. "It could take months." "Then it takes months," looked around the table. "I know your cultures celebrate sacrifice, noble death, heroic endings, but that's not how humans think. We don't believe in necessary losses. We believe in getting everyone home." An architect spoke up, its voice humming with thought. "Commander, mathematically speaking, 1,000 people each completing 1% of an impossible task has a higher probability of success than one person attempting 10% and dying. The human approach is more efficient." Studied the tactical displays again, his crystalline features thoughtful. "It would require unprecedented coordination. Every ship would need to know exactly what to do, exactly when to turn back. The slightest miscalculation could cost lives." "Then we'll plan carefully," said. "We'll train together, run simulations, make sure everyone knows their role." She stood, placing her hands on the table. "This is what we do. This is what humanity does best. We take impossible problems and break them into small pieces until they're not impossible anymore." The council voted. It was close, but the decision was made. They would attempt the relay. The preparation took 3 months. Hundreds of ships were modified, shielded, equipped with specialized tools. Crews trained in synchronized operations, learning to work together with split-second precision. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, combining their knowledge of simple mechanical systems with advanced physics. Coordinated everything from New Geneva Station, watching as the fleet assembled at the edge of the core. It was the largest cooperative effort since before the Cascade, maybe the largest in galactic history. Humans and aliens, working as true equals, attempting something no single species could do alone. The operation began at dawn station time. The first wave of ships entered the core, their shields glowing against the radiation. They pushed forward, each ship following a precise course, deploying beacons and stabilizers. When their shields reached critical levels, they turned back, exactly as planned. The second wave went further, building on the first wave's work. Then the third, the fourth, each wave penetrating deeper into the chaos, each team doing their small part before retreating to safety. Watched from the station, her heart in her throat. They lost ships to malfunctions, to accidents, to unpredictable anomalies, but no lives. Every crew made it back. On the 50th wave, they reached the primary control node. It was a massive structure, floating in space that seemed to fold in on itself. The shutdown sequence would require someone to stay, to maintain the biological override codes while the system powered down. The process would take 3 hours. The radiation would kill any biological being in 2. Prepared to go herself. She was old now, 57 years, worn down by years of hard work. If someone had to stay, it should be her, but her crew stopped her. "You're too valuable," said firmly. He was 30 now, no longer the young officer she had known. "The fleet needs you. I'm going." "Thanks. I'm already dying, Commander." He said it simply, factually. "Cascade radiation exposure from an accident 6 months ago. I have 3 months left, maybe less. Here, I have 3 hours. It's enough." Wanted to argue, to refuse, to find another way. but she saw the determination in his eyes and knew he was right. Sometimes, even with all their planning and care, sacrifice was necessary. The difference was that it was choice. "Make it count," she said, her voice rough with emotion. Smiled, "You all better build something amazing out there. Make this worth it." He piloted his ship into the heart of the core, into radiation that lit up his shields like a star. His hands worked the controls, following the shutdown sequence with perfect precision. Over the communication channel, and the entire fleet listened as he worked, his voice steady and calm. "First system offline, stabilizing, second system responding, third system. There we go, this isn't so hard, just like fixing the Perseverance's engines, right, Commander?" "Just like that," said, fighting back tears. "You know," continued, "I was born on that ship, never saw Earth, never walked on a real planet, but I got to help rebuild the galaxy. That's pretty good for a kid from a broken-down generation ship." "Pretty good," agreed. "Core systems shutting down now, it's working, the chaos is stopping." His voice was getting weaker, the radiation taking its toll. "Tell my mom I did okay, would you? Tell her I helped." "You did more than help," said. "You saved everyone." Good was quiet for a moment. "It's getting hard to see, but the readouts are green. We did it, Commander, we actually did it." "We did it," repeated. "Rest now, you've earned it." The communication channel fell silent. On the displays, the core's chaos began to subside. The spreading anomalies stopped. The automated systems went dormant, had given them the future. The fleet returned to New Geneva Station as heroes. Billions watched as the ships came home, as crews reunited with their families. The galaxy had been saved, not by one great power or military might, but by cooperation and careful planning and one young man's willing sacrifice. Stood at the memorial service, looking at its name carved into the wall alongside others who had died during the cascade. So many names, so much loss. But they had stopped the dying. The cascade was over. 10 years after it all began, the Restoration Council met in New Geneva's Great Hall. The station had grown into a city, orbiting a reborn world that was being terraformed by a dozen different species working together. The council chamber was filled with representatives from 70 species, all equal voices in the rebuilding. Was 62 now, her hair completely white, her hands marked by age and hard work. But her eyes were still sharp as she stood before the council. "We have a proposal," she said. "Earth is gone, we can't bring it back, but we have the technology, the resources, and the cooperation to build something new, not a copy of Earth, something better, a world built by all of us for all of us." An alien delegate raised a manipulator. "What would you call this world, Commander?" Smiled, thinking of all the others who had died so that the galaxy could live. "Hope, we call it hope." The motion passed unanimously. Ships from dozens of species began gathering around a barren world in a stable system. Humans, architects, and 40 other species started the work of terraforming. It would take generations, but they had time now. They had a future. Stood on the observation deck of New Geneva, watching the first seeds being planted in synthesized soil on the surface far below. Tiny green shoots that would one day become forests. Around her, human children played with alien children, learning each other's languages and cultures. Joined her at the window. "We never thanked you properly," he said, "for saving us, for teaching us, for showing us there was another way." "You don't need to thank us," replied. "We saved each other, that's how it works now." Still insisted. "Your species did something remarkable. After losing everything, after you died and your civilization fell, you kept going. You never gave up hope. Thought about Earth, burning in the expanded sun. About the billions who died when the cascade began. About giving his life so others could live. About every loss, every sacrifice, every moment when it would have been easier to quit. We were told that humanity's strength was our technology," she said quietly. Our weapons, our conquest, our dominance. But they were wrong. Our strength was always simpler than that. What was it? Asked. Watched the green shoots growing on the world below. Watched the children playing. Watched the ships from 100 different species working together to build something new. We never stopped believing tomorrow could be better than today, she said, and we never stopped working to make it so. That night made her final log entry. She was tired, ready to rest, ready to let younger people carry the work forward. But before she did, she wanted to leave a record, something for future generations to find, to remember. This is Commander Sarah of the Perseverance final log entry. The cascade broke the galaxy. It destroyed civilizations, killed billions, reduced the mighty empires to ash and memory. We lost everything. Our technology, our certainty about our place in the universe. But we survived, not because we were stronger or smarter or more advanced than anyone else. We survived because we remembered the basics, because we never forgot how to work with our hands, how to fix things that broke, how to grow food from seeds. We survived because we understood that the simple things matter most. More than that, we learned that survival isn't enough. We learned that what we build together is stronger than anything we could build alone. We learned that every life has value, that no one is expendable, that cooperation is more powerful than domination. To whoever finds this message, whether you're human or alien or something we can't imagine yet, remember this. You are not alone. You never have to be alone. When everything seems lost, when the darkness is overwhelming, remember that a single light is enough to start pushing it back. And when we carry lights together, nothing can stand against us. The galaxy fell, but we caught it. And now we're building it back piece by piece together. That's humanity's gift. Not our technology or our weapons, but our refusal to give up, our willingness to help, our belief that tomorrow can be better. We were unbroken after everything. Not because we didn't feel pain, not because we didn't lose and grieve and suffer, but because we understood that what remains after everything is taken away is enough. Each other, the will to continue, the refusal to surrender hope, that's enough. That's always been enough. That's always will be enough. End log, Commander Sarah signing off. She closed the log and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, ships still drifted in the core's heart, a monument to sacrifice. Somewhere, Earth's ashes cooled in the burned-out system that had birthed humanity. Somewhere, the galaxy remembered what had been lost. But here now, children played under lights that would never go dark. Seeds grew in soil that would feed billions. Ships moved between stars on routes that would only grow stronger. The work continued. Humanity had survived, more than survived. They had helped others survive too. They had taken a broken galaxy and started putting it back together, one small piece at a time. That was enough. That would always be enough. Smiled and walked away from the window, ready to rest at last. Behind her, the stars shone bright, and hope grew in the darkness, green and alive and unbreakable.